What's up, YouTube? So I'm in my car right now. I just wanted to do a little video on some things. So you know, I am half Hispanic, half Black, and growing up, um, I didn't know for a while either that I was half Hispanic, but I always got asked if I was, and people always assumed I was. But growing up, I always sort of wished I was like, so I'm trying to find some place to rest my phone. I can only hold it in my hand. Always kind of wished I was like half Italian or French, And this was before I knew I was mixed too. I always imagine myself. I'm like, if I have to be mixed, like before I knew, I was like, I wish it would be like Italian or like French or something, And then when I found out I was like adopted at age 20, like everything made sense. And then I'm like, of course I'm Latin, whatever, through my birth parents, but yeah. So I remember going to high school, right? I always had this image of Latinos as being a minority group that stuck together, that like were for each other, that helped each other out. I didn't realize like Hispanics had all these problems, like stuff with colorism, racism, like anti-blackness. I didn't realize it. And then when I got to high school, because it was like it blew my mind. I wasn't around a lot of Latinos in my middle school, and in elementary school. I was mainly around Haitians, and then like there was like, it was some Cubans, but it was like Afro-Cubans, It was just sprinkled in, and it was like some people from Nicaragua and like other places in Latin America, some white people, But I feel like, especially the Cubans, they never talked about being Cuban, like out loud, so I never knew, Could have been because it was a shame. I have no clue, And then so, damn, I gotta get home quick, my fucking guys. So I got to high school, right, and it was the time I was really around a lot of like Hispanics, Then I started realizing all these problems they had, and being around a majority of Cuban people, it was the first time I really felt shame, like with Hispanic people. Even though I didn't know even though I didn't know I was Hispanic, it was the first time I really felt shame, and because the Cubans at my high school were just unbelievable, like rancid. I don't even know how to say it. Like, it was just like a lot of racism going on, a lot of colorism, a lot of anti-blackness, and I'm just like, I felt shame, I'm just like, whoa, I just thought Latinos was just one way, and then damn, like, it was just a lot of fucking like messed up stuff, I felt shame. That was the first time I really felt shame, or felt like ill towards, like Hispanics or whatever, when I got around Cubans in high school with the very shameful racism and colorism, anti-blackness that Cubans displayed. And Cubans overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump in this election. They should be very ashamed of how they act and how they carry themselves. Cuban Americans should be ashamed. And it was a lot of that going on. It was a lot of just a lot of messed up stuff going on with these people in school. That's the first time I felt shame. And then I remember when I found out I was Hispanic at like 20, that's another time when I felt all this internal shame because of what I went through in school, with how Cubans acted, and I'm just like, this isn't just Cubans, this is a problem within the Latin community, the racism, the colorism, I know every community has its problems, but like, and then during the election, the 2024 election, that's when I really, like, that's when the shame just fucking like just packed in on me. Like, I'm just like damn. So Hispanics have been stereotyped as a minority group that sticks together, right? But then they voted against each other and in spite of each other, because, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, and it's so much jealousy going on And like, especially Cubans, they overwhelmingly voted for Trump, and then that's why, like, I felt shame even more. Like, that's when it hit the boiling point, the shame I just felt, because of how, and I'm not the person to judge people on looks. I judge people by their character and how they carry themselves, how they act towards others, how they treat others. And like, it was just so much I felt at that moment when I saw the voting statistics, and like, I'm like, why would I want to be like a part of a community like this, like, that secretly hate each other and that's at each other's throats, and there's so much spite and jealousy going on, and like, I feel like that's just how I felt in that moment, and that's why growing up, I would always wish, like, even after I found out I was Latin, I would always like be like, damn, like, why couldn't I have been like born like half Italian or like half French or something, I really don't know where I'm going with this. I just wanted to get this off my chest, I feel like there's nothing I can do when it comes to who I am, but it's just like, there's so many problems with the Hispanic community, and this like Latins really showed out. They really showed out during this election, and it really showed, like, y'all don't stick together. Hispanics don't stick together, and it's like a lot of internal problems.